Can you see what I'm doing?
So far, yeah, looking pretty good.
Okay, we're going to be over here now, not over there.
Should I highlight? Should I move it that way a little
You
bit?
might have to move it slightly. We are going to go for assembly here. Now, if you missed all the important stuff, you have to go back to a previous video and look at it. Okay, so we need Loctites. We need some sleeve retainer, and we need some non-Loctite assembly lube. This is my valve seal compound.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
Good. So you take that and you put it on the guide here. Not on the inside, on the outside. Then you wipe off the top, make sure you have none on the top. Because you do not want any of that Loctite on top of your valve guide.
You may want to show that afterwards to the camera. It's not a good shot.
Because if it goes into the valve stem, it might make the valve not go up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have had other shops that have actually done that, and they bend the push rods and everything, and they wonder why there's a problem. You are not supposed to use half a tube of materials on things when you're using them. So I had to tell him that he was not supposed to do that. I think he just couldn't split heads together, but you know, they both worked. He didn't have the problem anymore.
It's almost so you can't hardly even see it's on there.
That's because it's
Just
very clear almost.
just enough.
Yeah, you put just enough on there to do the job. No extra. Okay, which head is this?
Front.
Right. So that means we got to use our stuff that's over here. Now you make sure there's no more Loctite on your hands. You wipe it off. Mm-hmm. Then you put lubricant material on there. Once again, don't mix the two. We want the valve to go up and down.
Assembly lube?
Preferably more than once or twice before it sticks. And I just kind of rotate as I put it in. Give it a couple slides back and forth. Make sure it's good. It's good.
Same thing with the exhaust?
Yep. I've seen this before.
Just commentating.
Okay, then we take, which pile goes where?
The first one to the right would go to the right.
Okay, if the head goes on the bike like this, the parts go from there right onto it.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. Okay, these two are thick.
That the one we needed to?
Now you got a sharp edge and you got a rounded edge. How do you put them on?
From rounded edge up, sharp edge down.
I like to have an oil gap on the bottom, so you put the sharp edge up.
Okay.
I don't want the sharp edge eating on the valve spring, so I put the sharp edge down.
Mm.
So they fight with each other. And don't put this on before you put the lower collar on it. Make sure you put the lower collar. Then you put this piece on. Now I do not use that special sleeve thing. I just kind of wobble the seal back and forth and just let it kind of go down on its own. And it's in there.
That's as far down as it goes?
Well, it might go up and down right now if you don't shove it on.
Yeah, I thought.
Now we know it's going to be tight against the collar because he measured. The collar isn't moving now.
There it is, folks.
Okay, now you go up and down with it. Make sure it goes all the way up. It does. Now you want to make sure the spring is still there. You didn't damage it. And it's on square. That means it's not cocked.
On the seal, we're talking that spring.
On the stem. You got to make sure it's all square to the stem. Now I put the thin shim in between the two thick ones. That way the wearing surfaces are hardened. Same deal with the seal. So you just kind of wiggle it back and forth. You have to figure out how hard to hit it. That comes from experience. After you screw up a few of them, you figure it out. So after you're all done, you want to make sure it goes up and down cleanly. You want to make sure that the spring and the seal are not damaged in any way. That means you're on there good.
I like that blue color too.
That looks really good inside the bike, motor, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you take your aforementioned parts. Exhaust is now the first one. So that means we've got to use one all the way over here. We grab the spring we like. Do you like that one? Or you want
I like that one.
like this one?
They're all good.
They're all good?
We checked them.
We don't know if they're all good. We haven't used them yet. There might be a defective one that might break.
Well, we measured them for poundage, didn't we? Or just on one, didn't we?
Yeah, well, one of them. Well, not everybody has the air-powered valve spring compressors.
They are good to the world, though.
So we do have these other ones over here that work too. Here's a nice mechanical style one that works just fine. A little slower, but it works. Okay, so that one's in there. Make sure the keepers are in there before you put the spring toward you. It will hurt if it hits you. That is optional though. These are definitely not racing springs. We're not using much air pressure. So I hold the keeper with my lower finger and thumb on top if you need to, but see how it pops out there? You hold it with your thumb to keep it down, it goes up. Make sure it's in there doubled. And the last thing you do, you take your screwdriver, you hit on the top of each keeper. Not both at once, only one at a time. That just make sure it's seated in there. It's best if you don't stand in front of it like me. If it comes off, it hits you. It will hurt.
Yeah, sure.
I have been hit before. Not directly though, but bouncing off the wall and back hurts too. Okay, so they're installed. Now, as a final backup, you take your 6-inch scale and you go measure your install height and make sure that you are still a little over 1/800. It'd be nice anyway. And for some reason, I am not getting that number.
What do you have?
You have 1,650.
How the hell could that happen?
Obviously, the installed checker is not accurate with that color that we had in the hole. I'm about 680 right now on this one. I wonder why I had to put so many shims under there. Yeah, it's about 680. So that would be called not very good. That's why you always double check everything. So obviously, whatever the hell this thing was measuring, it was not measuring the right thing. My guess is that this is supposed to be on the top surface here, not the bottom surface. So our air factor is about 150 thou, looks like. 200 thousandths. Nope, 150. So I was getting 680. What's 680 and 150? Probably pretty close to probably close to the number I wanted, isn't it?
830, yeah.
So I am off by 150 thousandths on my valve shimming, basically.
More, or it needs more or less?
Less.
Less.
Too much install height. We don't have enough install height. Right now, if you put the motor together like this, you would bend all the push rods, and maybe the valves too.
They would hit the pistons? Or what?
Well, you definitely coil bind the spring.
Oh, okay.
No, you wouldn't hit the valves because the valves are they still have plenty of room to go down. But you'd bend the push rods because of the coil bind. The springs would go hard coil. So at this point here, I got to take this apart. I got to lose the shimming and do some more calculations.
And we'll be back in a little bit.
And right now, if we take all of these shims out, we have 130, so we're still coming up a little bit short on our number.
That's all three of them?
That's all three.
Hmm.
And one of them only had two. This one only had two.
Yeah. Did you measure the other valve to see if it's the same thing?
So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do for some more clearances here, because we don't have enough clearance with that combination. So, all right, so that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to go and figure out what we did wrong. I already know I did wrong.